What the? How the? What in the world did we just watch? How the?
Yo, it's time to grind. With Brian on the mic, content is one of a kind. Now, welcome to my show, the BS Report, where we let the truth flow. We're breaking down the stories, shining light on the games. No fake news here, just hot takes blowing flames. The BS Report, yeah, we're keeping it tight. Bringing you the news, making it ignite. Tune in, turn it up, feel the heat rise. With Brian in the house, our takes won't be compromised. From the latest news to the hottest debates, in the BS Report, we're setting the stakes. So come along, join the ride, where Brian and his subscribers are full of Niner pride. Yo.
What's going on, guys? This is the BS Report. I am Brian, your host. Let's talk about that shit show that we just watched. I hardly have words for that embarrassment that was just put on the field. I don't know how in the world the majority of that staff can have any level of confidence getting on that plane back to San Francisco. That was the most pitiful, embarrassing product that they could have put out there on the field. I mean, I thought last week was bad. That was horrible. That was horrible. You can't blame the elements when Buffalo came out there and played like it was 80 and sunny. I mean, this, for all you Kyle Shanahan apologists out there, please, I encourage you, comment. How do you excuse that? At the end of the day, the product that's on the field is a reflection of him. He is supposed to have his guys prepared. He is supposed to have his guys ready to play. Why in the hell are we trying to get cute in this type of a game? We have running backs that are running the ball fine, good, better than fine. And you want to hand the ball to Kyle flipping Juszczyk? Are you kidding me? What is the excuse for that? How is it okay? You're supposed to be an offensive genius, Kyle, and that's your genius play? There's just no excuse me, there is no excuse for that performance that they put forth out there today. This looks like a team that has no will left. They have no fight left in them. They're old, they're slow, they're hurt. That's all because Kyle decided that this was the team that he wanted. This is the team that he chose. He picked this team. I'm not coming down on Kyle because of the offensive performance solely. Overall, this team is a joke. They should be embarrassed. How do you go from what you were last year to this? There's no excuse for this level of play. None. I've been saying for long before I ever started making videos for this channel that Kyle was way overusing McCaffrey. Now, I have no evidence to say that the injury that he sustained today had anything to do with his use. It might have happened either way. It might be the conditions. I have no idea. But we had no chance in this game. There was no way that we were going to win this game. Why risk it? After what you just paid him this offseason, why would you risk putting him out there in those conditions? The same applies to Brock Purdy. The same applies to Fred Warner. The same applies to all the guys that are key foundation pieces that played in this game that had no business playing in this game because of the potential for it to happen to them what happened to McCaffrey today. That is organizational malpractice. And the fact that you still played all those guys and you got your ass handed to you up and down the field all game long. You gave up 13 points with 2 missed kicks and the fumble basically at the goal line. Well, Kyle's the one who decided to draft a kicker in the 3rd round. Kyle's the one who decided to hand the ball to the fullback who doesn't get many carries as it is at the goal line when he has a running back that's averaging 7+ yards a carry. It makes no sense. That is momentum killing and shifting plays right there. You know, and the field goal attempts. Just because you run the ball on 1st down and you get no yardage or 1 or 2 yards doesn't mean that you have to pass the ball on 2nd down. Run the damn ball. Run it again. What proof did they show up until those points that they were going to be able to stop us on consecutive plays? There's no conceivable reason for the decisions that this coach is making right now, this whole season. It makes no sense. I don't see how these Shanahans out here, how they can be defending what they're watching on a weekly basis with this team. It's an embarrassment. This whole team needs to be blown up. We have some core players and some good young players, but the core that has been the core for the last 4 or 5 seasons, it needs to be broken up. It's not getting it done anymore, and it's not going to get it done in the future. It's old, it's slow, it's tired. It's over. This era of 49ers football that we've just watched, it's done. And in my opinion, Kyle should be done. He probably won't be, although I don't know how Jed or Daddy York could be watching this and have any confidence left at all that Kyle is the right guy to lead the next generation of 49er football. Because he's not. And that's not to say that Kyle's not going to go somewhere else and have success with another team. But his chances at success with this team is done. It's over. He doesn't deserve the opportunity to build it back. You know, there was no way that the 49ers were going to win this game. Last week, we traveled to Green Bay in cold weather and then traveled back to San Francisco. Then they traveled to Buffalo to play in this weather that they played in today. And they're down Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Nick Bosa, Giacomo Lenore. They're down Hufanga still. They're down Ayuk. They're down a whole plethora of players on this team. Not to mention the fact that Purdy's hurt, that Pooney is hurt, that George Kittle's banged up, that Fred Warner's banged up. McCaffrey was hurt and now he's injured. Now he's probably done for the year. It made no sense. There was no way Buffalo was going to win that game or lose that game. If Buffalo had lost this game, that would have been one of the biggest upsets in the NFL in the last few years, considering everything. Not to mention the fact that this 49ers team has been playing like one of the worst teams in the NFL over the last 3 or 4 weeks. This whole season has been a train wreck. And the conductor of this train is Kyle Shanahan. And I don't care what anybody has to say about that. Kyle is not the guy to lead this team going forward. He's not. So with that being said, knowing that the 49ers had no chance to win this game, this is the second week in a row that this team has come out and shown no pride in what they do. I don't know. I after I made that video, a few days ago, I thought about it and I'm like, man, I'm not attacking anybody's personal integrity at all. I don't know these guys, and for all I know, these are great dudes. But their professional pride, it just seems to be lacking. And I hate to say that because to some degree, you're still going at somebody. And I hate to do that, but what else am I supposed to gather from watching these games than that? Kyle has lost this team. He doesn't have the ability to get them up and get them ready for games anymore. This team used to be a team that would go out and fight tooth and nail for each other and for their coach. That is not there anymore. These guys are getting punked on a weekly basis. They're getting embarrassed. What's going to happen next week if Caleb Williams does this to them? At what point is enough enough? Because I would encourage somebody to make me believe that next year is going to be any better. Because this year is the result of a lot of years building up to this. You could say in a sense that we sold the farm for the opportunity to get to where we got last year. And now somebody's got to pay for that. And they're paying for it now. Because, we've got old players. We've got slow players. And these are players that we owe money to still. They're not easy outs as far as getting rid of them. We still don't know what we have in Brock Purdy fully. I think the picture is getting a little bit more clear, but it's hard to actually know that as long as Kyle's the one coaching him. We have no choice but to roll with CMC next year. How can we afford to keep Jordan Mason? In my opinion, you got to do what you got to do to keep him. It's almost to the point where it doesn't matter who you have to trade to keep him. You got to keep him because CMC, I'm sorry, I feel bad for the guy, but he can't be relied on to be there going forward anymore. He's hit that wall in his career where it might be done. Trent's only getting older. Kittle's only getting older. Debo is, I was making a comment to one of my buddies during the game who was watching it with me that, they should switch Jawan Jennings' salary and Debo's salary. But even Debo making Jawan's salary is still overpaid. So, Warner's going to get older. Now, he's still young. He's still in his prime, but he's probably closer to the end of his prime than the beginning of his prime. Mooney Ward's not going to be here next year. We don't know what we have in Greenlaw. Mustafa looks promising. Jair Brown, in my opinion, looked more promising last year. Renardo Green looks promising, but we still don't know with him. Aaron Banks doesn't look good. Jake Brendel surely doesn't look good. Colton McKivitz doesn't look good. So somebody explain to me why next year is going to be better. We can hit on every single draft pick again, and all of the draft picks from this year could turn out to be what we're hoping that they are. And we have just replaced the players that we're losing. We still haven't gained depth. So what happens when one of those players gets hurt next year? This team is not going to be a championship contending team for a couple more years. I would say 27 probably. If everything goes right and Kyle's not here. Because if they keep Kyle, more than likely he's just going to continue to kick the can down the road on some of these players, and he's just going to prolong the rebuild of this team more and more and more and more to the point where we end up being the Saints. This can't continue. This should have happened last offseason. It definitely needs to happen at least this offseason. But I don't know how much faith I have in Jed to do the right thing. Because I certainly don't have faith in Kyle to do the right thing. This is a disaster this year. It's one thing to lose. It's one thing to have a down year. It's one thing to deal with injuries that lead to those things. But, the thing about it is, even with the injuries that we've had, the talent that we put on the field on a week-to-week basis is as good, if not better, than 85% of the rest of the league. And we still get just embarrassed by all these teams. I just want to see this team, win or lose, show fight, show heart, show pride, show some respect for the jersey that they're wearing. And that's what we're not seeing. And I don't, and that to me is unexcusable. There's no way that anybody can make that okay. And that comes from the coach. Generally, when that happens, the team is not hearing the message from the coach anymore. They've tuned him out. They're done. This team looks like they're done. Last week when I was in Green Bay, I watched Kyle on the sideline, and in the first half, yeah, he was fired up. He was, looked like a coach who was fighting for his job. About middle of the second quarter through the second half, he looked like he didn't want to be there. Now, I wasn't at this game, but he coached like a guy who doesn't want to be there. It was weird because if you guys watched the halftime interview with him, most of the time Kyle gives this interview and he's real stern and stone-faced and kind of, I'm just here so I don't get fined type of thing. And today he was almost polite. He was almost cordial. And I was like, oh shit, Kyle gave up. He doesn't care anymore. That's the impression I got. And I know that's really sad to think that because of guys being polite, that his give a shit is just done. But man, I can't remember a time when Kyle gave an interview where he almost like halfway had a grin on his face. That's nuts. And I remember thinking that's not like him. And I don't know. I don't see how a person can say that this team is engaged, that this team is bought in, that this team is fully behind their head coach when that's the effort that they're putting out for basically 2 or 3 straight weeks. It appears to me like the loss to Seattle zapped all the confidence out of this team. And I don't know that it's necessarily their self-confidence, but the confidence that the way they're being led and the way they're being coached is enough anymore. And I think it's probably time. In fact, in my opinion, I know that it's time to move on. It's time for different leadership, different direction from the coaching staff, the front office, and it's time for different leadership from the core group of players. You're going to have your Purdy's, you're going to have your Bosas and your Warners, your Kittles. But the rest of that core, Debo, Juszczyk, Trent, it's time for those guys to be replaced. It's time for the younger guys to step up and be the voices in that locker room. It's time to find out what we have in Purdy for real. The odds of us winning next year or even the year after are probably pretty slim. So it's time for the coach, which will more than likely be Kyle, to let go of the reins and let's see what we actually have with this quarterback. Because we're going to have to know before we commit so much money to him and set back the organization even more years. But this new standard of football that Kyle Shanahan is putting out there this season is not acceptable. I don't believe that the fans, even the ones that are pure Shanahan supporters, would agree that this new standard of 49ers football is acceptable. They may not be to the point that I'm at where they're ready to fire him, where they're ready to show him the door. But I'm almost certain that they're to the point where this is not an acceptable standard for the 49ers. And so something has to change. And it's not just getting healthier next year. That is, you can't count on that being the change. If Shanahan is retained, then there needs to be a personnel person, a GM, a president. Somebody needs to come in that has the final say on football decisions, on personnel decisions. Kyle needs to be forced to hire an offensive coordinator. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has to give up play calling. But he needs to be forced to bring in somebody that is in that position if he's going to be retained. He needs to be forced to change the defensive coordinator and the scheme of the defense. It doesn't work The league has caught up to it. I'm not saying that you can't run certain aspects of this scheme, but Kyle needs to be forced to bring in somebody who has a different viewpoint on defense, who's going to change it up. The same thing with his offensive coordinator. Because Kyle's game plan, offensively and defensively, is stale. Everybody knows what's coming and everybody knows how to stop it on offense. And everybody knows how to beat it on defense. It's just embarrassing. That performance that was put out on the field tonight was embarrassing on both sides of the ball. It is bad when we miss 2 field goals, and I would say our best unit of the 3 tonight was special teams. That's horrible. This special teams unit is one of the all-time worst in 49ers history. And tonight, out of the 3, it was probably the best. Kyle Shanahan and that entire offense should be embarrassed. Nick Sorensen and that entire defense should be embarrassed. You know, and leave it to the 49ers to come out the first drive of the game and get a 3-and-out, and then get the football and drive right down the field and give this dummy 49ers fan right here some hope, thinking, oh my God, you know, if this is a 49ers team that's going to show up tonight, we might actually have a chance. Stupid. Yeah, I learned my lesson. That's the last time that I have faith that Kyle is going to be able to hold momentum. A lot of it was, I mean, I can't even say that. I was going to say a lot of it was the defense, but no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. 3 points through middle of the third quarter? Come on. We continuously drove down into Bills territory. And we get there and it stalls out. Kyle just got done saying in his press conference that he pissed his family off because on Thanksgiving he gets home at 7, goes and has dinner real quick, and then he goes and does red zone. What are you doing in there, Kyle? Because it's not working. You say you do red zone on Thursday nights? Stop. Do it a different day. Do it on Wednesdays, Kyle. How about that? Whatever you do on Wednesday nights, how about you do that on Thursdays now? And you can do red zone on Wednesdays, and then, you know, just change it up a little bit. You might as well have had dinner with your family and enjoyed your Thanksgiving, because pissing them off and leaving them after you ate dinner real quick, it didn't do anything. It didn't help anything. It's embarrassing. They call you a genius. I want all you Kyle Shanahan fans out there, I would love for you to comment and tell me, why is he a genius? What makes Kyle a genius? I'm sincerely asking. Yeah, I'm a little bit irate, frustrated right now, but genuinely, I'm sincerely asking why you all believe he's a genius. Because if you look at his coaching record without Christian McCaffrey, when has this offense ever been top of the league without CMC? And I'm not talking about yards. Don't give me yards. I'm talking about scoring. I don't care how many yards you get in a game, you don't win if you don't put points on the board. So, without CMC, when has this offense ever just looked unstoppable? Because you all are the ones throwing out there the Kyle Shanahan is a genius thing. So when I hear genius, I think revolutionary. I think there's only a certain number of people who should be able to put up the production that he puts up. He's a genius. Y'all aren't saying he's just good. Offensive genius is the term that is used. So back it up. Let me hear how, without Christian McCaffrey, this guy is innovative. That he's doing things that nobody else can do. Because I don't see it. So put it in the comments. Let me know. Those of you who still believe that Kyle should keep his job beyond this season. I don't think he should keep his job beyond this game, personally. But for those of you that think that he should keep his job beyond this season, please, in the comments, let me know why. Specifically. I don't want to hear because we were a dumpster fire before he came here. I don't want to hear because, what if we get Jim Tomsula or Chip Kelly again? You don't have to do that. Just because you get rid of Kyle doesn't mean you have to go that route. I don't want to hear, well, we don't know what Ben Johnson is. We don't know what this coach is or that coach is. We don't know how good of a coach they're going to be. Yeah, we didn't know that before we hired Kyle either. We do know what Kyle is, and I can tell you what he's not, and that is a Super Bowl winning coach. I don't even think he's a Super Bowl winning caliber of a coach. So I don't want to hear any of that. I don't want to hear because he built up this roster to be what it is. Fine. Keep him as the GM then. No, I can't even say that. He gives out ridiculous extensions sometimes that make no sense. I will give him credit for building this roster, though. I'm not saying that Kyle has done nothing good since he's been in San Francisco. He did turn this franchise around. He did build up this roster to be loaded with talent. I will 100% give him that, but he hasn't done enough to cancel out the negative that he's done. He just hasn't. Had he won even one Super Bowl, fine, 100%. But he didn't just lose them, he blew them. He didn't go to the Super Bowl and get totally just blown out by the dynasty that is the Kansas City Chiefs. No, he went to the Super Bowl and got a lead on the dynasty that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Should have won it, but decided to choke and blew it. Because he wanted to get cute. Because he wanted to be the hero. I heard a content creator one time say that if Brock Purdy can't stop trying to play hero ball, if he can't stop trying to be the one who puts the team on his back, puts the cape on and wins the game, and he continues to make costly turnovers and cost the team games, then he needs to get out of here. Well, why does that logic not apply also to Kyle Shanahan? Because the first Super Bowl against the Chiefs, the game against the Rams, and the last Super Bowl against the Chiefs, Kyle, we were winning. We had control of the game. Kyle decided to put on his cape, decided that he wanted to be the hero, and blew it. So if you can say that about Brock, why does it not also apply to Kyle? And game after game after game, Kyle he's just not it. He's lost it. Whatever it was, he lost it. And I think that it was Christian McCaffrey. You know, and in the beginning, in the first couple of years, the first Super Bowl in 19, and then when we went to the NFC Championship against the Rams, the rest of the NFL hadn't caught up to Kyle's running game yet. His passing game has never, ever, ever been spectacular or special. It's been competent because of the running game. Because we had such a dangerous and lethal running game, it opened so much up in the passing game. But Kyle's never been this genius at scheming up passing plays and stuff like that. The run game and the looks that he's got off of that has been able to scheme people open because of the fear of that. Well, the thing is people don't fear that running game anymore. They've learned how to control it. They've learned how to stop it, to stifle it. But Kyle doesn't adjust. Kyle doesn't grow. He doesn't change. So that's a problem. And just as it was starting to get stale, he got McCaffrey, which for a season and a half was a cheat code, basically. And then McCaffrey got hurt. And so the 49ers had to go back to the running game prior to McCaffrey. And the crazy thing about it is it did still somewhat work with Jordan Mason this season until we got to the red zone. And then once we got there, that's when Kyle's creativity had to come into play. That's where Kyle's brain and Kyle's genius had to take over. Because he didn't have McCaffrey to throw the ball to and let Caffrey's genius and creativity take over. It had to be on him. And we see how that's gone. So if Kyle was such a genius and Kyle was such an offensive just innovator, it wouldn't matter if it was McCaffrey, it wouldn't matter if it was Jordan Mason or Isaac Guerrero or anybody really. We would be fine. But he's not. So last year when we were scoring all those touchdowns in the red zone, it was because of McCaffrey's genius. And then even the passing touchdowns, all Brock's passing touchdowns, those were possible because of McCaffrey, because McCaffrey opened all that up. The league has caught up with that system, with Kyle's system. And until he shows the ability to adapt and adjust and grow, we're not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go anywhere. You know, I say Kyle could go get another job and probably be very successful at his next stop. I still don't believe he's going to win a Super Bowl, but he'd probably be successful and make whatever team he goes to into a perennial playoff team. But maybe not. Maybe not, because I really, really do truly believe that the league has caught up to him. And he has shown an unwillingness to change and adapt. I do believe he's smart enough to do it. I do believe he's capable intellectually of making the adjustments, but I also believe that he's too damn stubborn and hard-headed to actually do it. He's too prideful. And maybe if he gets out of San Francisco and he doesn't have guys that have the audacity to challenge him like Grant, maybe he won't feel the need to be so petty and spiteful. So maybe he will adjust. But I don't see it happening, and it's surely not going to happen here. So I would love to hear what other 49ers fans think about what they've witnessed the last few weeks, especially tonight. And for all of you guys out there that support Kyle thick and thin all the way through, you know what? That's great. Hey, I'm not here trying to tell you how to be a fan. You know, that's great. If that's how you feel, then, you know, more power to you. And, you know, don't back off of that. That's yours. But I just want to know something sincerely. Is it waning at all? You guys that are super Shanahan supporters, is your confidence or your faith in him, do these games like tonight and last week and seeing some of the decisions that he's made with personnel and how he uses them in games, does that make you question it at all? Does it give you pause at all? Or are you just unwavering? And if that's the case, if you are, what would it take? Would it take another year? Like Stat says, well, if this happens again next year. I mean, Stat said the Niners could lose every game for the rest of the year. And his opinion on Kyle wouldn't waver a bit. So is that where a lot of you are? Like, he's got carte blanche this year, but if next year the same thing happens, then that's when you're ready to talk? And I'm genuinely curious. So please leave me a comment down below. I try to respond to as many as I can. Leave me a comment and let me know what it would take. And you know, and for those of you that are done, like me, and you're ready to move on from Kyle, you know, besides Ben Johnson, you know, what are your guys' ideas of a coach to replace him? And if you don't have a name, what type of a coach do you think we should be looking for? Where do you guys believe that the Niners should go from here? I would be really curious to see what you guys have to say and what your guys' feelings are after this game. I know I was pretty heated as soon as the game ended. You know, I had to take a minute, but you know, so yeah, let me know what's going on, what you guys think, how you feel, where you guys see the rest of this season going, what direction you would like to see the off season go. And I'll probably be back tomorrow with another video kind of recapping this game. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, comment, and like. I would really appreciate it, guys. And we'll see you next time.